Good morning, boys and girls. It is a happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Thursday, May 21st, 2020. Today we're moving into the true story of the three little pigs as we continue to talk about animals. I put take one on my slide because I hope I'm going to get all the way through without having to redo this video. Thursday, May 21st, 2020. And today we're moving into the true story of the three little pigs. This is Mrs. Sheppard, room 137. Miss Thompson behind the scenes. Here we go. Pigs, pigs, and more pigs. Just show me the pigs. Oink, oink. Our first two songs are songs from our shared reading packet this week. Let me hear you from home really loud in your singing voices. Mia, Coda, Elijah Lawson, Eliza Spencer, Damian Jonathan, City, Wells, and Ben. P-I-G-G-Y. There was a hungry little hog and Piggy was his name. Oh, P-I-G-G-Y, P-I-G-G-Y. P-I-G-G-Y, and Piggy was his name. Author unknown, author unknown, author unknown. The author is unknown. Rolling right into, from last week's shared reading packet, Oink, 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 little pig. Tune of Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Here we go. Oink, 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 little pig. Can you do a little jig in the bright light of the sun? Are you having lots of fun? Oink, 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 little pig. I think that you will grow big. Oink, 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 the author is unknown. Oink, 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 the author is unknown. And this is in your shared reading packet for this week. I'm loving as we're learning about and reading about different versions of the three little pigs. This is The Pigs Are Pink and Plump, sung to the tune of The Farmer in the Dale. Here we go. The pigs are pink and plump. The pigs are pink and plump. They keep cool in mud all day. The pigs are pink and plump. The pigs have curly tails. The pigs have curly tails. The mother pig is called a sow. The pigs have curly tails. The piglets are so cute. The piglets are so cute. The piglets are the baby pigs. The piglets are so cute. The author is unknown. The author is unknown. The author is unknown. Oh, the author is unknown. Mother pig is a sow. Baby pigs are piglets. And our last poem that is in your shared reading packet for this week is Pigs. Pigs are playful. Pigs are pink. Pigs are smarter than you think. Pigs are pudgy. Pigs are plump. Pigs can run but never jump. Pigs are loyal. Pigs are true. Pigs don't care for barbecue. The author is unknown. Oink, oink, oink. I like the way that poem ended with a little humor, letting us know as readers that pigs don't care for barbecue. Now, I've been asking you, since we started our unit, just what do you know about the three little pigs? And by this point, we have a lot of prior knowledge, and we've done several different versions of the three little pigs. Remember, we're working on that traditional literature genre. We're working on what makes a fairy tale a fairy tale. Fairy tales have lesson in life, theme, moral. We're thinking about story elements. Those are those things that make up a good story with characters, setting, central problem, main events, solution, or resolution. And we're really focusing on, with our Three Little Pigs different versions, we're focusing on comparing and contrasting different versions of the Three Little Pigs. Let's review the different types of stories that make up the traditional literature genre. We have folk tales, read with me from home, fairy tales, fables, tall tales, legends, and myths. And these are some characteristics of fairy tales. Fairy tales are passed down from Mia, generation to generation. Love it. Fairy tales are usually told first through codebug, storytelling, and then they are Elijah, yes, written down. Most fairy tales have many different Lawson, yes, versions. Fairy tales teach a lesson in Eliza life, also called Eliza theme, also called Eliza moral. Love it, Eliza Lou. Thinking about fairy tales, things often happen in what numbers, Spencer? Yes, 3s and 7s. Fairy tales usually begin with Damien. You got it, once upon a time. And they usually end with John Boy. Yes, happily ever after. Usually in a fairy tale, Ben Flynn, we have a bad guy or a Wales villain or an Sid, yes, antagonist. So those are my characteristics of fairy tales. I need to hear you in the pink part. Mrs. Sheppard's going to be in the black part. Today I will learn, first grade, to compare and contrast different versions of the same fairy tale. My job today is, first graders, to compare and contrast different versions of the same fairy tale. Now we started way back on Monday with our blue book version of the Three Little Pigs. Then on Monday we also read our yellow book version of the Three Little Pigs. And then on Tuesday we read our southwestern version of the Three Little Pigs, which was called the Three Little Javelinas. And then on Wednesday, yesterday, we read a Hawaiian version of the Three Little Pigs, which was called the Three Little Hawaiian Pigs and the Magic Shark. Now today, we are moving into a new version of the Three Little Pigs, and this book is called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. This is always a class favorite. When I did this with my first graders and when I did this with my second graders, this was one of those stories that many of them had heard, but many of them had not. So this is always a class favorite. It's called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. I wonder why it's called The True Story. Now our classwork assignment, we're going to be making a Venn diagram to compare and contrast, going all the way back to the blue book version and the true story of the Three Little Pigs. We're going to do like we did yesterday. Hope my pen is working. We're going to start with the blue book version, and I'm going to start with a first bullet, and I want to know whose point of view is the blue book version of the Three Little Pigs told from. That means when I say point of view, who is telling the story? Give it to me, Lawson. Yes, in the blue book version of the Three Little Pigs, the story is kind of told from the pigs' point of view. They are telling what happened. Now the next bullet I want to think about, in the Three Little Pigs, the blue book version, what was the big problem? Why did we have that whole story? What was the central problem? Sid, yes, Sid, in the Three Little Pigs, the Blue Book version, the wolf wanted to eat those cute little pigs. If we hadn't had the wolf wanting to eat the pigs, we would still have the straw house, the stick house, and the brick house. And I want to also ask, who was the villain in the Blue Book version of the Three Little Pigs? Wells Fargo Town Bank? You got it, Wells. The villain was the wolf. In fact, he became well known as the Big Bad Wolf. Now, as we are reading the true story of the Three Little Pigs today, I want you to be thinking about whose point of view this story is told from, or who is telling the story. I also want you to be thinking about what is the problem in the true story of the Three Little Pigs. And I also want you to be thinking about who is the villain or the bad guy or the antagonist in the I said, what is the problem in the Three Little Pigs? I meant the true story of the Three Little Pigs. And then I said, who is the villain or antagonist? And I meant in the true story of the Three Little Pigs. So we're going to roll right into our book for today. Let me hear you from home. This is the Wolf's version of the Three Little Pigs. Title, let me hear you first grade. The true story of the Three Little Pigs. Author, John Sheska. Illustrator, Lane Smith. Genre, fiction. Genre, traditional literature. Genre, fairy tale. Author's purpose, to entertain. Now, this is one of those books that's not too terribly long. Yesterday, when we did the Three Little Hawaiian Pigs and the Magic Shark, we watched the clip because I really didn't have time to do the book and the clip. This book is going to be the true story of the Three Little Pigs, a little bit shorter. So we're going to do both today. Mrs. Sheppard is going to read to you from her rocking chair. And then I also have a clip for you if I can get my camera straight. Remember, I like to do the clips while we're learning from home so that you can see the illustrations a little better. The true story of the Three Little Pigs, and on the front it says by A. Wolf. Everybody knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf, but you can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, people would think you were big and bad too. He's saying maybe people think we're bad just because of the kinds of foods we like to eat. But like I was saying, that whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Sneeze, A, plus sugar B. This is the real story. So he says this is what really happened. Now, way back in Once Upon a Time, I was baking a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So he's baking Granny a cake. He has a terrible cold and he runs out of sugar. Wonder what he's going to do. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. If you're at home and you run out of something when you're cooking, you might ask a neighbor, hey, can I borrow? He needs a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. Now, in that sentence, bright doesn't mean bright like a light bulb bright. It means he wasn't too smart or quick thinking. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Text to self. Usually when I'm getting ready to sneeze, I can tell I'm getting ready to sneeze. And lots of times when I'm getting ready to sneeze, my nose itches. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I achoo! Sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. So he says, I didn't blow that house down. I had to sneeze, and when I sneezed, the house fell down. And there was that first little pig, dead as a doornail. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw. So guess what he did, boys and girls? So I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have that cup of sugar from my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next neighbor's house. The neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang, ring, 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 the doorbell of the stick house. And this might be what his doorbell sounds like. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, go away, wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I achoo! Sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, Wolf's honor means he says, I am telling you the truth. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Now, we're inferring if he had dinner, that means he ate that second little pig. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake, so I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of what, boys and girls? You got it, bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. Now, impolite means, I'm using context clues as a reader. Impolite means not polite. That means you're not using good manners. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't even give me one little cup from my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig! I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. Well, I huffed and I snuffed and I achoo! Sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. That's him going a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down the pig's door, and the whole time I was a huffing and a puffing and a sneezing and making a real scene. He says I was just huffing and puffing and sneezing because I had a cold. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. What the wolf is saying, he said the police came because I was trying to knock on that door. He said, and the news reporters came, and when he said they jazzed up the story, it means they added some details to make the story more interesting. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. Now, framed means he was set up. He wasn't really the bad guy, but the newspaper reporters made him look like the bad guy. He says I was framed. And I love this last illustration. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. Now that last page as a reader shows me that the big bad wolf wasn't really the big bad wolf. He was set up, he was framed, but that shows he is in jail, and that gray in his beard makes him look like he's been there a really long time. And the way that story ended was he never really even got that cup of sugar for his dear old granny's birthday cake. Now, I bet you liked the true story of the three little pigs. When I heard that for the first time, I loved the different version, and this version was told by the wolf. Now, let's go ahead. I haven't forgotten the clip. Let's go ahead and finish our Venn diagram. Who in the true story of the three little pigs, who is telling the story? Whose point of view is this book told from? Whole first grade, give me a shout out. Boom, you got it. It's told from the wolf's point of view. He's the one telling the story. What was the problem in the true story of the three little pigs? Whole first grade class, shout out, give it to me. Yes, he needed a cup of sugar for his dear old granny's birthday cake. Who was the villain in the true story of the three little pigs? Well, I think Pig 3 was one villain because he insulted the wolf's granny when he said, and your old granny can go sit on a pen. He was mean in his talking about his granny. And I would also say the villain was the news reporters. Because boys and girls, what did the news reporters do? Did they tell what really happened, or did they jazz up the story to make it more interesting? Yes, they jazzed it up to make it more interesting. So in the Blue Book version, it was told from the pig's point of view. In the true story, it was told from the wolf's point of view. In the Blue Book version, the problem was the wolf wanted to eat the pigs. In the true story, the wolf needed a cup of sugar. In the Blue Book version, the villain was the wolf. In the true story version, the villain was Pig 3, or we might even say I'm going to write it out here even though it goes in the circle. All three pigs, we might say, would be the villains in the true story. Also, the news reporters. So, in the middle where it's overlapping, what were a couple of things that were the same in both books? Give me one, Eliza. Yes, Eliza, there were still 3 houses. Tell me something else that was the same. Yes, Sid. 2 houses were blown down. The straw house and the stick house. Now, what I'd like to do next, I want to go right into, we've got 2 more little jobs. One's going to be an easy job. I'm going to show you the true story of the 3 little pigs clip so that you will be able to see the illustrations a little bit better. And then we're going to go into our writing job for today. And hang on, our writing job for today is going to be really, really short. So let's go right on into our clip. I hope it works. Cross your fingers that I'm not having a technology glitch here at school. There we go, it's working.
The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs by Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called. Little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the doorbell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, Go away, wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know how food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't even give me one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down this pig's door. And the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the 2 pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting. So they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. The real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar.
Okay, first graders, I love that clip. I love that book, The True Story of the 3 Little Pigs. I hope some of you are hearing that book for the first time. I know some of you as readers have probably already heard that one before. Now, I know on Thursdays we don't usually have a writing job because of our Zoom, but today I need you to do me a writing job, but it's going to be a really quick one. It won't take you long, I promise. This is going to go in your writer's notebook for today. And first, I want you to decide, who do you think is telling the truth? The pigs or the wolf? Do you think the pigs are telling the truth and the wolf was big bad trying to eat them up? Or do you think the wolf is telling the truth and he just needed a cup of sugar for his dear old granny's birthday cake? I want you to write your name, your date, and your number on your next clean page in your writer's notebook. After that, I want you to tell who you think is telling the truth. You're either going to write one word, pigs, or you're going to write one word, wolf. So after you name, date, number, all you have to do is either write pigs if you think the pigs are telling the truth, or you can write wolf if you think the wolf is telling the truth. One word. That's your whole writing job today. That's all you have to do in your writer's notebook. You do not have to write me a letter today. And then after you write either pigs or wolf, and you have your name, date, number, hold up your notebook, get mom or dad to take a picture, send it to me, and you are finished with your writing job for today. So that's what I need you to do. I thank you for being good listeners today. That's the end of our story as we compared and contrasted the Blue Book version of the Three Little Pigs and the true story of the Three Little Pigs. And in your writer's notebook, you're telling me who you think is telling the truth, either the pigs or the wolf. I hope you have a terrific Thursday at home. I hope you have a good day with your family. I'll see you a little bit later for our next lesson, which will be a math lesson for today. Thank you for working so hard at home.